Bry's Comics.
Welcome to Bry's Comics. This channel is all about comic investment and speculation with tips on how to have this hobby fund itself, how to take your collecting to the next level, and all things comic books, really. If that's something that interests you, consider hitting that subscribe button. It will enter you to win a free slab. We do a giveaway on my YouTube channel every single month. And if you head over to bryscomics.com and sign up for the newsletter over there, we also do a free giveaway for a slab every single month. Follow me on Instagram for more giveaways. Follow me on Whatnot, where I do a giveaway every single show. A lot of awesome stuff happening over on Whatnot. And there's a link in the description. If you use that link, you get $10 towards your first purchase. So this video is about a series of submissions that I got all in the same week from CGC that were incredibly unfortunate, to say the least. But I think that there are some tips and some lessons that came out of it that could be helpful to someone else, which is why I'm making this video. So I ask that if you do leave a comment, please watch the whole video. Please wait till the end, because some of your comments may be addressed at some point during the video. And we're going to start by looking at the actual submissions, what happened, address some of the problems, and then we're going to talk about CGC's response to this at the end of the video. So let's jump in and take a look at the submissions. This is most of the We Live submission that came back. These are all books, all of the books that need to be sent back because of damages. And these are ones that are actually good to go. I was able to ship out about 20 sets. So there was about another box that were good. So about a good third of this submission was actually damaged. So it was a disproportionate number of the black edition that were damaged to the white edition. So these are all white editions. And so just to take a second to appreciate how awesome these turned out and how awesome they look, especially in a 9.9. And then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 9.9's. This one's a 9.9 as well. And then these are the 10's. So freaking cool to see a 10. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 10's for the whites, 0 10's for the blacks. All right, so I got 0 10's in the blacks, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 9.9's, about 5 9.9's in the black. So a disproportionate number of whites that got 9.9's and 10's versus the blacks. And that leaves an interesting point, which is, are these books really different in quality? I mean, this book is white, this book is black, it's the exact same book, it's the exact same cover, it's the exact same cardstock. So I would believe that this book actually has the same types of damages as the black version. It's just harder to see. And so it's just something that I thought was interesting. You know, everybody always says it's tough to get an all black book in high grade, and it's true. But I would argue that the white versions aren't necessarily less defective, they're just harder to see. And so if at some point we get to some kind of mechanical grading, that might level the playing field between all black covers and lighter covers. All right, so here we have all of the damage books, and we've got all of these different types of damages. This one is the most concerning. It was graded at a 9.9. And if you look right here, there's a big fat spine tick on it. It's hard to see because it's a white cover, but there you can see that there's a big old spine tick right there that would knock this out even of getting a 9.8, and it was graded at a 9.9. And so this leads me to believe that this defect happened after grading and before encapsulation. So what happens is the book is graded, and then it goes to some other process within the facility to get actually encapsulated and then shipped out. So this type of damage is not something that would happen in shipping. It is literally impossible for a book to incur a spine tick like that from shipping. This is from a human hand. And so at some point in the process, you know, a human hand accidentally put a spine tick there. And so on this book, this particular book, I've requested a buyback from CGC because there's nothing I can do with it. I can't sell it as a 9.9. I can't have it, you know, regraded because it's going to come back a 9.6. And it's clear that the damage was incurred by CGC because they are paying such ultra fine attention to detail to differentiate between a 9.8, 9.9, and a 10. There's no way that they missed this because they are, you know, looking at these with a fine-tooth comb. So It's just unfortunate, and we'll see what they do. I requested a buyback. I have to ship it back to them, and they're going to evaluate it and then get back to me. I have faith that they'll just compensate me a reasonable amount of money for this book, and then destroy the book, because there's nothing they can do with it either. They can't regrade it. They don't sell books, so unfortunately, it's just a total loss. Now this book also was graded at a 9.9, and this one just has just a small piece of plastic inside the case there. The whole plastic piece that holds the book in place came dislodged. I hope that happened during shipping and that didn't sneak past quality control like that. It probably happened during shipping. This one here, we have the infamous hair inside the case, which you can see right there. It's actually not a hair, it's a plastic fiber of some sort. It's not a human hair. At this one as well, also a big plastic hair, unsuitable to send out. The reasonable collector would not be okay with that. And then we have the Newton rings. So here you can see it right now, the Newton rings all over this book. It's graded at a 9.9, and it just has these atrocious Newton rings that they're so bad that you can't, it totally detracts from the art. There's no way under any angle that you can actually enjoy this book. There's just this big old splotch on it. And there's one, here's another one that was graded at 9.9 that looks like that. And another one. I mean, it's every single one of these black books that's in this stack. There was, you know, a good handful that I was able to get out. But all of these books here in that stack have those atrocious Newton rings on the front cover. And my question is, how does this get past quality control? I mean, the reasonable person standard is what should be applied here, and any reasonable person that looks like this would say, oh no, this needs to be re-encapsulated. Like, anybody that walks up and sees this would say, what's wrong with it? What is that? What's that oil spill that's inside the case? So just super disappointing that all of these have to be re-encapsulated and risk a whole bunch more handling, because these are graded 9.9, difficult to get in high grade because it's an all black book. And you know, when they take these out and crack these out of the case and cut them out of the thing, you know, they could incur damage. So here's another couple books that came in 2 days later, a separate submission that had you know, severe cracks to the cases that need to be sent back. And this by no means is CGC's fault, because it is from shipping. Obviously this took a really rough ride in shipping, and there's pros and cons to this. All right, I want to point out a couple pros and cons. The pros is that the books inside are protected, so that is a major plus, that even when this book takes a severe beating in shipping, you know, in many cases the book inside can survive. Obviously there's also situations where the book inside doesn't survive, which we'll get to here in just a second. But I think that the boxes that ship 25 books are just too heavy. It's just too heavy, and I'll show you here. This is a box that holds 25 books, and when you pack 25 books in there, it's really heavy. And you see FedEx and UPS and USPS, whoever it is, and they lugging these things around. They're 20 or 30 pounds, and they drop them on a corner and take a big deep breath because they're just too heavy. I think that they should decrease the amount of books in there, even if it increases the return shipping costs. It cuts down on stuff like this and avoids return. So I do think that they should you know, decrease the size of those boxes. Now in this submission here we have some Black Panther 3 second prints, and I'll show you what the problem was on these. All of these ones here, I was able to fulfill some orders, but there's 11 of them that had these sunken staples, as you can see there. And so what's happening here is the staples are attached to the interior pages, and as you can see, those are the interior pages sticking out past the cover, and those interior pages are just pulling on the staple and just ripping it right through the cover. Now this is due to a couple things. One, super cheap paper quality on these Black Panther 3 second prints. I'm not sure if it applies to the Black Panther 3 first prints. Leave a note down in the comments if you know if the first prints are having the same problem. But a lot of these Black Panther 3s are having this problem, that under normal shipping conditions these books are just pulling away from the covers. And I'll show you here. You can see the interior pages there, and if I just give it a little tap, those interior pages are gone. If I give it a little tap back, there are the interior pages again. So it's just bouncing around, and you might say, well, if they just tightened the case, but here's the thing, they also all have these egregious Newton rings in addition to the staple poles. So it's not that it's not tight enough in there, it's so tight that this is squishing, it's squishing the book, and this is still happening. So either way, no matter how you cut it, the case is inadequate, okay? The case needs to be engineered in a way that the book inside is safe. And it's just, even with it being snug and pressing the book down, it is not adequate to keep this book safe. So yeah, these Black Panthers were a double whammy. They all have the staple pole, and they all have this egregious Newton ring there in the center. So I just found this as well. I forgot that I had this to send back to them as well. Different book, same problem. The staple just completely pulled through the book. And there you can see the interior pages sticking out from the cover. And if I just give it a little tap that way, the interior pages are back in. But obviously that, and there's the staple. The staple reappears. But if I give it a little tap this way, the pages come out. Staple gone. So this book has no Newton rings on the cover, so it's not, it's a little bit of a different situation. I sent in multiple copies of this. This is the only one that came back like that, but it just shows another example of how the case, unfortunately, is inadequate.
So what was CGC's response to this? Well, I called CGC, and I am not even going to repeat what the customer service representative told me at first. It was such poor customer service that I'm not even going to repeat it, okay? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'll tell you why here in just a second. But what I had to do was he had to bump it up to a supervisor anyways because of the gravity of the situation. And so a supervisor called me back within a few hours, and we found a solution to all of the problems. Easy peasy. The supervisor did all the right things, apologized. I'm so sorry for all of this. This obviously isn't standard. What can we do to get you happy again? Which is exactly what you want to hear from customer service. It's just kind of unfortunate that I had to get to a supervisor to get to that point. They overnight ship all the books back to them. Overnight ship them. UPS, they pay for the shipping label, and that is a really nice touch. And then they rectify the problem, whatever the problem is, and then they overnight ship them back to you. I think that is really classy. They don't have to do that. That's an extra expense at their part, and it shows, it's a gesture of good faith on their end that they really want to rectify the problem. Now, how long it takes for them to fix the problem depends. Sometimes I've had it come back in 7 days. Sometimes I've had it come back in 2 months. And so for the ones with the Newton rings, they're going to reholder those. And for the ones that I've requested a buyback, they're going to evaluate them in person and get back to me. So I'll keep you updated on how that all shakes out. As far as their response, so far it's been great, and I'll keep you updated. Now, as far as the customer service response, I want to add a little bit of perspective from both ends, from the customer service guy and from my end. So can you imagine being a customer service representative for CGC? That has got to be one of the worst customer service jobs in the industry. I mean, they're getting paid just over minimum wage. I mean, I saw in their promotions, they're advertising for new employees that their starting wage is $15 an hour, and every single phone call is a problem. Every single phone call is negative. And I mean, nobody is calling CGC customer service to tell them what a great job they're doing. It's always about problems. And I can only imagine from the customer service representative's point of view, how grating that would be on your outlook, on your attitude, day after day, problem after problem, and probably from really heated people, right? So here's the other piece of perspective that I like to throw out there for the customer service representative. If for some reason you're watching this video, from our perspective, put yourself in the shoes of the collector. These are collectibles that we've submitted. We've waited many, many months to get them back, eagerly awaiting our prized possessions, only to get them back to see that they've been mistreated, mishandled, avoidable problems and defects with it. And that is incredibly irritating, only to be told that we're just going to have to hurry up and wait some more. And a lot of the times these collectibles are things that we've had since childhood that are incredibly important to us. So a little bit of perspective from both ends. I think if we, both parties, have empathy, if we, the collector, have empathy for the customer service rep who deals with this crap every single day, and if the customer service rep has empathy for the collector whose prized collectibles were mistreated, I think if we come to it with that instead of with our guards up, I think we'll all just be better off for it. Now, to address some real problems that CGC is having. Number one, the CGC case is inadequate. I mean, for a lot of times it's fine and there isn't problems, but there are problems enough of the time where they need a new case. Now, here's the thing. I'm not an engineer. I'm not claiming to be an engineer. I don't have an idea for a design for a better case. That's not my job. But I do know that it's not an unsolvable problem, that a very basic engineer could come up with a case that doesn't have Newton rings, that holds the book in place so it doesn't shift during normal handling situations and cause damage to the book. This is not an unsolvable problem. And what's concerning to me about the case is that they haven't done anything about it in years. I mean, it's always been an issue. The first case was inadequate. They upgraded to another one. That one was inadequate. They upgraded to another one. And now we have the one that we have. It's still inadequate. From CGC's perspective, if I am in management at CGC, one of the first things I'm going to do is figure out how to cut back on some of these losses that we're taking for all this overnight shipping back and forth and re-encapsulating and tying up resources to fix problems that should have never happened in the first place. One of the first things I do is get a new case. It will increase your bottom line for CGC, and it will help the collector to not have their prize collectibles be damaged, restore some confidence and faith in the company. I mean, it's an all-around win. I don't know why they're dragging their feet for coming out with better cases. The second real problem that they have is quality control. I mean, I don't know how they're training these new employees for CGC to get them, to approve these books going out, but it is not cutting it. They need to apply a reasonable person standard and say if a reasonable person were to look at this, would they be okay with it? That means no hairs, that means no plastic, that means the book has to be orientated in the right direction, there's no Newton rings. I mean, just slow down the quality control process a little bit and it'll help in the long run because of all of these returns. Now, the last thing that I have to address, if you follow my channel, you know my stance on this, but a lot of people are going to say, well, why do you keep sending them your books? Why do you keep giving them your money? The way I feel about it is it's the lesser of two evils. I don't have a better option at this point. In my opinion, there are two grading companies that are viable to use as a business, and that's CGC and CBCS. If you want to use one of the other grading companies just to protect your books and encapsulate them, that's fine, but they're not really viable for the aftermarket. And in that situation, if you just want to submit books to keep your books safe, just buy an aftermarket product and do it yourself. Don't even waste the money and risk of sending it to all these companies to have just a useless certification. And the reason that I don't switch to CBCS is because they are under the exact same pressures as CGC. Long turnaround times, quality control issues, inconsistencies in grading. Everybody in this industry has grown so much so fast that they're having to hire new people, and these new people are inexperienced and they're going to make mistakes, and it's happening at both companies. So at the end of the day, I have to look at my two choices and weigh the pros and cons, and even though they both have the same cons, at least CGC has a better resale value, because if you go and look at resale values of CBCS, without a doubt, they garner less of a premium in the aftermarket. Now, my thought on that is absolutely ridiculous. There is no reason why CBCS should be worth less than a CGC. Both companies, I mean, any clout that CGC had up until this point of being like the industry leader in standards is completely gone. That is out the window. When they have grown and exploded and hired all these new employees and under new management, CGC is no longer the industry leader because they have better standards. Absolutely not. They are no better than CBCS. Right now, it's just the market catching up to the idea of, a different company. When you look at what's going on and the new people that are on board and grading, they're just totally inexperienced. So there's no way that you can say that company has better clout. Now, in the same token, CBCS has hired a whole bunch of new people too. So one isn't better than the other. They should be equal. And so I know people love to say, well, if people like you, YouTubers like you, and shops, you know, only use CGC, it's just they're never gonna close the gap and never gonna, you know, be on an equal playing field. And here's the thing: is I support my family. This is how I support my family. I feed my kid by selling comic books, and I can't take a 20% hit to my bottom line to try to change something in the industry. I just can't do that to my family and to myself. I have an obligation, you know, to be as profitable as possible. We will see how that changes over time. I do have confidence that this playing field will even out. If CBCS starts to close the gap, then maybe I can switch over and really make a push and try both companies, you know, and submit hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books to CBCS as well, and really have, you know, personal experience to compare the two companies and choose the best one. But as of now, CGC is the best option for me. I appreciate all you guys, and remember, you know, don't let any of this kind of stuff, if you're experiencing these kind of things with grading companies as well, don't let it steal your joy. Remember that this hobby is as awesome as it is because we love these stories, we love this artwork and the history behind this culture of comic books, and we can't let anything detract from our enjoyment of this hobby, including, you know, mishaps with grading companies. Thank you as always for sticking with me to the end of the video, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Bry's Comics.